Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
I'm making a couple notes here so that I don't forget the most important points that I want to address during our podcast topic for today.
Okay.
But in the meantime, what is you're deep into the protein, food tracking with Chronometer.
Yep.
Tell me, what is something that has been a more recent awareness for you in this process?
Yeah.
Let me sip on this coffee real quick.
Take a sip of my coffee.
Coffee.
Every time I do nutrition tracking, I don't love to track my macros. It's kind of a hassle, and I don't love to get fixated on like all the things around what I'm eating all the time. Sometimes, however, whenever I go and engage in that process, it is always super valuable. And so I really find a lot in there that is very illuminating. And I learn new things every single time I try it. So something that I'm learning recently is more around the overall balance of a day, where I think that when I first start to track, it's sort of this overwhelming puzzle to try to figure out of like how to just get the macros for the day in. And then over time, I start to get used to those rhythms and start to see the patterns. And so I can better plan or predict, how those things will all shape up in a given day. So I think it's something new for me is kind of around how certain types of, products that I eat, like I tend to eat simple ingredients as we preach. And so I'll be eating some animal products and some dairy products, and just getting a deeper understanding of the balance of fat and protein in those things.
Sure, yeah.
So that helps me sort of plan, like now I'm seeing that whenever I eat this type of super lean meat, then I have more fat available in the day in other forms. And so it's just kind of a new thing for me to get the hang of like on a day when I know I might want to eat like some kind of treat later that has a lot of fat in it. It's like, no problem. I can just like have some leaner choices earlier in the day, and that will all completely balance out.
Super interesting. Yeah. I mean, you only arrive at these things when you actually look at it over and over and over again. But yeah, I posted something yesterday about like, this is my Costco Instacart haul if I'm going to go for all of the awesome protein options that they have. And I basically filled up the cart with everything that I could buy at Costco that was a high density of protein with low fat. And again, not because I'm anti-fat,
right?
But if you're going to have 80 grams or 100 grams of fat a day or 60 grams of fat a day, and you want to choose where it comes from, then a protein source, that has mostly protein and little fat might give you more options. Maybe you want to have a fatty cut of meat, and that's the place you want to get your fat from. Well, then the rest of your food for the day is going to be less fat. You're not going to be able to pour as much oil on your salad or whatever, have as much avocado because you had the ribeye, and that was a big whack of, fat. So that's interesting that you're arriving at that just by, the process of looking at it over and over again. And I had somebody who was DMing me just now. It was like, because they were responding to that post. Like, oh yeah, I love the, the Chomps meat sticks from, Costco. And I was like, oh, well, how much fat is in each one? It was like, oh, there's 6 grams and blah, blah, blah. I was like, how much protein is it? And it's like, I think it's like 12 grams. So I'm like, you get 2 grams of protein for every gram of fat. Whereas with something like, a chicken breast, it's 2 grams of protein to 0.1 gram of fat. Like it's a considerable difference, which again, one's not better than the other, and fat's not bad, protein's not better. It's just like you need to get these amounts, and you want to have some control over where they come from. And, people are like, oh, I got to get 100 grams of protein. So I'm going to get my 100 grams of protein from ribeye steak, sausage, and bacon. Great. That's 3 times as many calories as if you got it from this over here. And again, if you're just going to eat, you have to eat the right amount of calories each day. Like, depends on where you want to get it from. You get to decide. Choose your own adventure.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I recently opened up so I used one app for a long time, and I still have that app, and I'm still not like converted away from it, but I was like, everyone's talking about this one over here, and so let me open up that app and practice using it. And it was kind of a good experiment to go through the pain points that most people go through of like, wait, how do I do this, or where is this button, or the learning curve was a little faster for me because most tracking apps like have similar features, but it was just it's been interesting. I'm like a week into it, and I can't say that there's anything about it that I'm like, oh, this is way better than it was before. It's just a different way and a different tool and a different way to get used to it. There are some more detailed like nutrient reports and daily reports. You can access those things in the other apps and most of the apps, but just it's about visuals, it's about graphs, it's about seeing it, and some people like to see it a particular way. But it was cool because the person that runs social media customer support or social media for this new app was like messaging me. They're like, hey, I'm a Persist member.
That's so
they
cool.
followed some functional bodybuilding. So little win for that company.
Right.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Today we're talking about how to lose weight without losing muscle. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Where does this stem from for you?
I mean, this morning when I stepped on the InBody. First of all, let me say that I'm in the game of refining. I'm not looking to make any dramatic change to my body right now. And I'm not on a bulk. I'm not on a cut. I'm just following the nutrition journey and kind of seeing where it takes me. But I have noticed that I have recomped a little bit in certain ways, and I'm starting to lose weight a little bit. I've lost just, I don't know, probably less than a total pound overall. Actually, it's been more like 2.5 pounds, like since the last time I did a scan. But my skeletal muscle mass has also decreased a bit. And so I have recently upped my protein, and I don't think it's been like super long that I've been doing that. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I generally know more protein, muscle gain, those things are related, but what is sort of the overall pointers for someone who wants to perhaps do something similar where it's like a little bit of a recomp or maybe even lose more body fat, but we know how important hanging on to that muscle is. And so what do you need to do from a nutrition standpoint, maybe from an activity standpoint, maybe from a training standpoint, to sort of get all those things to work in tandem well with one another?
Yeah. Well, first a note on body composition and body composition analysis and different tools that are out there and how much that is dictating which direction that you're going to take anything that you're doing with your training or your nutrition. I love that we have a tool that provides feedback right there on the spot for people that, touches on body composition. The InBody scanner that we have, it relies on, electrical impedance, this technology where it sends a current through your body, and because, electricity travels, more quickly through muscle than fat, or maybe it's vice versa. The difference in that is how it's going to determine how much muscle versus fat you have in your body. If it gets from the right side to the left side quickly, it's, you got more of this. But there's a lot of error in that. And that's not to say that there's it's a worthless tool. It's just that I see a lot of people like, oh my God, my skeletal muscle went up by a pound or went down by a pound or went, it's like these 1 pound changes. That's less significant on that type of tool than if you see like a 5 or 10 pound change. Like the errors that you might get in a single reading are not 10 pound changes. They're like, if you see a 10 pound change over 6 months, that's very conclusive. Like you've made a change. Plus you're going to see it in the mirror. Whereas something like, like I said, like a half a pound of, muscle increase or decrease, or, hey, I lost a percentage body fat, from last week to this week, but this week I'm up a percentage. It's kind of like your body weight. You don't look at it every day and just think like, oh my God, I gained 3 pounds overnight. It's like you look at it over the course of multiple, weeks. I think with body composition, if you're stepping on that thing, you want to like look at trends. It'd be something to like step on every week or every month for 6 months and see what's going on.
Right.
Now, a more accurate tool would be like a DEXA scan, which I was just talking about with a client yesterday and a friend, and I was like, I think I'm just going to switch to doing DEXA scans, doing one every 6 months or once a year, and just have that as my ongoing, because that's going to look at my bone density. It's going to give a much more accurate results on body fat and muscle mass, actual tissue density, because it's basically scanning your body so it can visualize where the muscle and how much there is. And then that is something to just track over time, because we want to maintain muscle over long periods of time. What's happening in the short term, like I'm going to rely on my body weight and how I look in the mirror. Yep. If my body weight is, staying the same and I still look about the same, like I haven't changed muscle, dramatically in one way or the other. So I just think that that's a good, important thing to remember. Now, if you are trying to go and lose a bunch of weight, or you're trying to like lose body fat, then you're right. You absolutely want to maintain muscle. So go find a tool out there that can kind of give you like a before and then wait, have a time point out in the future, where you're going to go and get the after. And if you can do a DEXA scan, great. If you have the in-body, you might do it every week for the course of like, make it 12 weeks time. And that's where you want to see if there's a trend in your skeletal muscle going down. We don't want that, right? But if it's kind of staying, it's hovering in like within a pound, but like the body fat's going down by 3 pounds, 4 pounds, like then you're good to go.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that makes this
problem solved. Okay,
we're
done with this podcast.
Need to do this podcast. Forget it. But if we're going to talk about, actually pause for 1 second. I believe Adam is here, and if he's outside, it'd be great if somebody would go let him in. He's at the front door. We have a guest who's coming, and he's at the door. So Nate's going to run down, and we're just going to keep rolling. Okay. Adam will know that we're going to be down soon. But if you want to lose body fat, or you want to recomp, and you want to maintain this precious tissue called muscle, here are my 4 key points.
Oh, love it.
Okay. Number 1, go slow. Number 2, don't make the cardio mistake. Number 3, eat like you mean it. And number 4, lift hard. Okay? So let's start with number 1, go slow. Try and lose body fat as fast as you can, and you will increase the likelihood that muscle is going to also get lost. Go on a crash diet. Do the 30-day ultra crazy hard, gotta fit into my bikini for the summer. Go that route, and you're gonna increase the likelihood of losing muscle mass. We can always take a page and a chapter out of the bodybuilding manual of how to get stage prepped and understand what are the best practices. Okay, this is where you go to, right? Bodybuilders are going to win the competition and the prize money and the accolades and the medals if they maintain as much muscle as possible and lose as much body fat as possible. They have to do both. They're the experts, not the person who's, got a belly and can Olympic lift a lot of weight. That's not the person you want to listen to. You want to listen to the bodybuilder. And the bodybuilder says, it's prep time. Time to prep for the show. The show is in November. When does prep start? It starts in the early summer, maybe. 5 months out. If they're already a little bit leaner, maybe it starts 12 weeks out, 16 weeks out, right? We're talking 3 to 4 months to start this process. It's slow. It's like, that's how you're going to get there with the right body composition.
Yeah.
I listened to an interview yesterday with Lee Haney. Lee Haney. If you're not familiar, then I feel bad for Lee Haney because he's arguably one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated male bodybuilder of all time. But like Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like these other bodybuilders out there, everyone knows them.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie, because he's this colorful character who won a bunch of Mr. Olympias. Arnold, the same reason. Lee Haney, maybe not as colorful a character, won more Olympias. He won 8, I think. Like crazy, right? Like this is a decade of dominance. Anyway, in his interview, he said in 1993 was his first Mr. Olympia that he competed in, and he took 3rd place. His story was about 4 weeks out from the competition, he bumps into Arnold. Arnold's still very much in the scene. He's not competing, but he knows everybody. He says, "Dang, Lee, you look incredible. Like at your height and your size and your weight, like no, I've never seen anybody look this good. Like you're gonna crush. You're gonna win." He weighed 242 pounds a month out from the Olympia, and he looked amazing. When he stepped on the Olympia stage, he weighed 233. 9 pounds gone. And that difference, that 9 pounds, got him 3rd place.
Yeah.
He went back to the drawing board. He's like, what happened? I kept dieting too hard and I lost muscle. Next year, I'm going to do it differently. He steps on stage at 243 at the same weight that he was at the year before when he was looking so good. He made it to stage with that weight, wins the Olympia, and then continues to win 7 more after that. So this was just an example of like he dieted a little too hard for too long or too fast, right? And it was just like it was unsustainable.
Yeah.
So the idea is we're going to go slow and we're going to just kind of pace it out. He was going too aggressive and muscle just fell off his body. Mm-hmm. Okay. Did I miss anything, or was that kind of clear about that bullet point?
Any little number to add there, like if you lose more than X number of pounds per whatever?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
I would say 1 to 2 pounds of body weight per week is as much as you want to see.
Yeah.
And I don't think if you're in, and here's what I would say, if you're in a cut, if you're actually attempting to lose body fat, you want to get into that range. If you're losing less than that, then you're not being, in my opinion, aggressive enough. Because it's like, oh, I didn't lose any body weight these first 3 weeks, but then I lost a pound. It's like, who the hell gets motivated by that? Like, then you're on this like endless journey of like losing weight because you want to lose 20 pounds. Like at that rate, it's going to take you 2 years. And, you know, if you're not seeing the changes, you lose motivation, you lose inspiration, and you're like, fuck it. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of come back, and then you're like, 3 years go by, you like haven't lost any weight, and you're like pissed. So I think you got to get into that range. Now, that's that amount of food caloric deficit is going to be different for each person. You can increase your activity, you can eat a little less, but like that's what you're going for. If you get beyond that, if you're like losing 3 pounds a week, unless you have a considerable amount of body fat to lose to begin with, then it's more likely that some of that weight is muscle that's getting chewed up, right? So David Goggins is like somebody who, you know, a lot of people have heard his story where he had to lose like basically 100 pounds in 3 months in order to even get an invitation to go to Buds to try and become a SEAL. So he basically did like 3 months of like hell week, you know, in training to even get his, and what he did was he ate like basically 700 calories a day, but trained like a maniac with tons of cardio, tons of running, you know, all of the stuff. And he lost the weight, and arguably a substantial amount of that was muscle that he lost, but he also had a ton of fat to lose, ended up going to Buds and was pretty broken before he even got there, which is partly why he, the first round he got medical, he had to get medically taken out. The second round, I think that happened too. And then the third round, he finally made it through, but he was so broken from that aggressive cut. So it doesn't only because he lost a lot of muscle, he lost a lot of lean tissue, and he was just really stressed. So nothing good's going to come from trying to go super fast in the weight loss, body fat loss category. And go slow, but don't go too slow that you're not seeing results. And, trying to avoid the discomfort of being in a calorie deficit and I'm just going to go really gradual. It's but then you might not ever, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's the numbers. And then the second one was don't do the cardio mistake.
Yeah.
Cardio is not bad. Cardio is fantastic for so many things about your health. And it is absolutely something that we encourage everyone to do. As a means for driving your fat loss, I think it's very problematic. And here's the reason. When people do a lot of cardio, they that becomes this thing where it's I'm burning all the energy and it's going to give me a little bit more wiggle room on my diet. And that is just a slippery slope where it's I'm out. You can't outwork the nutrition side of this thing. When you're trying to lose body fat, you have to keep the nutrition super dialed. And then you're using cardio as a tool to build up your energy output.
Yep.
You don't want to rely on it. You just want to use it as one tool to sort of bump it up. And this could look like going from an average of 6,000 steps a day that you normally would do and bumping it up to 10,000, which is an additional 30 minutes of walking a day. That alone, over the course of your fat loss phase, could be enough to just bump your metabolism and your energy output up enough because your diet is so precise and dialed in. The other problem with doing the cardio mistake is that people are hammering cardio, and then it starts to impact how good their weight training is. I'm going to get to that as point number 4, but weight training has to be the focus because you got to keep the muscles stimulated to grow. And weight training is the best way to do that. Cardio could therefore be a detriment. Not saying that it's going to ruin your gains. It's just that if you do a bunch of hard cardio, and a lot of people like to get to the gym, I'm going to go knock out 30 minutes of cardio and then go lift. Well, that could potentially lower the intensity of your weight training. So you just have to be mindful of where you're placing your cardio and how much you're doing. I don't want it to become the thing that's your big lever that you're pulling and then you're not paying attention to your diet. I feel that myself, even at this aware state and educated state, where it's when I'm doing a lot more cardio, I'm a little bit more relaxed with my diet. I'm I'm just going on a mountain bike ride tomorrow. So tonight it's Saturday night. I'll just, I'll have that extra piece. That's a psychological thing that just creeps into so many people. It's the cardio psychological creep into food. Okay. All right. And then, but you should certainly consider including cardio into your fat loss protocol.
Yep.
It's just keep the intensity moderate and make sure that it's not impacting how you're lifting, and don't go crazy with the amount that you're doing. You don't need to walk 20,000 steps a day. You need to do 60 minutes of running. Just do a little bit. The lever you're going to pull is diet.
Yeah.
Eat like you mean it. And what I mean by that is kind of what I was just saying is you have to be precise. The food is the place to be precise when you're trying to lose body fat but maintain muscle, right? Somebody who's just trying to lose weight, they don't have to be precise. They just have to cut calories a bunch.
Yeah.
But if you want to maintain muscle, you got to be precise, because not only do you have to go into a deficit, but you got to make sure you're getting enough protein, and you probably need to be making sure you're getting enough carbs so that you can fuel hard workouts. If you cut a bunch of calories, those calories got to come from somewhere. And so somebody who's not being precise might just start eating less of everything. It's no. You don't want to eat less of everything. You don't want to eat less of protein. you might need to eat a little less of carbs to get rid of some of the calories, but you don't want to eat a lot. Like, you don't want to go low carb, because then your workouts are going to suck and you're not going to be lifting super heavy weights, and you're not going to be able to do part 4, which I'm going to announce. The lever to probably pull is like decrease your total fat intake a little bit more. So that's where you got to start to be precise. You got to follow what I would call the muscle building nutrition formula, or the muscle maintenance nutrition formula, which is prioritize protein. Make sure you're getting a gram per pound of body weight. Prioritize carbs over fat.
Yeah.
If you're in a fat loss phase. Why? And then I've come a long way on this, and I've, evolved my thinking on this, is that you got to be getting adequate carbs to fuel hard workouts, fuel recovery, and, essentially keep some anabolism, anabolic happening around workouts. Like keep that muscle building, muscle protein synthesis thing happening. So this is something, maybe this is the point that's really important for you to, what we talked about in the ice, or our icebreaker, or our banter topic. It's like, yeah, actually, if I'm like trying to recomp and I want to like tighten up, then maybe I need to be sticking to those leaner protein sources, so that when it comes to hitting my calorie goal on the day, I can keep my carbs high and my fat I can keep a little bit, lower.
Yeah.
Because if you eat a bunch of fattier protein sources, then you're not going to have as many calories left over to dedicate to carbs. And carbs are going to really be valuable to your training progress, your training recovery, and your intensity.
Yep.
Okay. And then the last piece is lift hard. In parentheses, progressive overload. So it's very difficult. And here's the way you can think about it. If you're losing weight, but you're getting stronger at the same time, do you think your body is losing muscle? Like, just like the general, like, intuitive answer to that. Like, hey, I see you're getting stronger. You must be losing muscle, right?
I'm laughing because I literally just PR'd my back squat.
Right.
It's like, okay, I think I've been getting a little too hung up on this like random little tiny change on the
on the biological or the electrical impedance, machine that was off by like half a pound or maybe a pound of skeletal muscle. Yeah. Right. And I, whatever. It's like today I ate lower carb the last 2 days, just incidentally. Yeah. And therefore my muscles don't have as much water retention in them. So
this is true.
All these things, right? So just lift hard like you mean it. Now I have done the opposite, where I've been like so caught up in just like, oh, I'm getting leaner. Oh, this is cool. I'm like, body fat's coming down. I don't care if I'm not like hitting PRs or if I'm not like lifting heavy weights. Like, I feel good, and then it's like, 6 months have gone by and I leaned out and I'm not as strong as I was before. Oh, like, there's a good likelihood that some muscle was lost. And on the flip side, if you prioritize coming into the gym and getting stronger every week and doing the progressive overload method and system of training, where you're like, I'm making an effort to get a little bit more on the bar each time, then that system of training and that focus and that lift hard model almost inadvertently ensures that you cannot lose muscle. Like, because the muscle is the only, that plus your nervous system, but your muscle is what your body has to try and move those heavier weights. So as long as you're pushing it hard and safely, that's key. And if the actual objective numbers are going up, or at least staying the same, guess what? Like, you're probably good in that department. Yeah. So if we put all this stuff together, pick a longer time frame, go slow. I'm going to go through a fat loss phase, and I'm going to do it for 3 months, 4 months, not 30 days. Okay. Then make sure you're in that 1 to 2 pounds per week range, right? Like, and to get there, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable to do it, but like, aim for that, but know that it's over at the end of that 3 to 6, the 3 months,
Yeah.
right? It's a 12-week program. Then it's over, and then you get to learn how to maintain that for a period of time, which if you go slow enough, that's possible. If you go super fast, the idea of maintenance is going to fly out the window, okay? Second was, don't do the cardio mistake, okay? Don't go ape shit on the freaking stair climber, thinking that you're going to like fix all your problems and make up for like, because here's how it works, right? I'm going to do a crazy cut. Oh, I slipped up because it was ridiculously hard after 4 days. I'm just going to go do an hour and a half, 2 hours of cardio.
Yes.
Fuck, I just did a bunch of cardio. Like, I'm hungry again. And I did all the cardio. I'll do it again tomorrow. It's like, it's totally messed up, okay? So don't make that cardio mistake. Eat like you mean it. Be focused. Maximize or optimize your muscle building qualities of your diet, which is adequate protein and keeping carbs up. Don't crush your carbs down to nothing. Fat's the lever to pull. And then last but not least, keep lifting hard. The carbs are going to help you lift hard. Not going crazy on the cardio is going to help you lift hard. Going slow is going to help you lift hard. And all of that points to you maintaining muscle because you're still overloading on the barbell as you go. My pre-workout kicked in about 5 to 10 minutes ago, and I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt it on this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're about to go train, so you can put that to use. But
I
I
know.
will add number 5.
Yes.
Don't get your mind twisted around tiny little numbers on your in-body scan.
For real.
Because I'm like, this is like so classic. You know, it's like my clothes are fitting better. I just PR'd. I've been super consistent. I've eaten more protein. It's like, I'm not really actually like losing muscle right now.
For real.
Yeah.
And you know what? I went through that too in the last couple of years, getting a little too caught up in the numbers on the in-body and freaking out. And to be honest, like what I see in the mirror matters a lot. And what my body weight is, that matters a lot. And how I'm lifting and how much I'm lifting. And if I'm getting stronger, if I'm challenging myself to get stronger, that matters a lot. And by focusing on those 3 things and then saving the body composition test as like a once or twice a year kind of like, let me just figure out what this is. Because you want to have some objective measurement over time. And I'm thinking like over years, like how am I doing, right? I mean, and something that I've really kind of gotten connected to is like, when the bodybuilder steps on stage, nobody's doing their DEXA scan.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Like, look at your percentages. Like, you win. No, because how you appear and look in the world and how you even feel, the numbers are a direct reflection of that. Like, you could show up and, how you present, what you look like, how you feel, like you're all that versus those numbers. Like, I'm not saying that they don't matter. And certainly in the conversation of like, we got to hold on to our muscle, it's important. But remember, we have other ways to like have a proxy for like, yeah, Sati, you did not PR your back squat yesterday by accident. Like, you didn't lose a pound of muscle or 2 pounds of muscle and then suddenly be able to produce the most force, in hip extension that you've ever produced in your life. Right? It's like,
right.
It's like, hey, you just did a lifetime best in something. And chances are that it wasn't the result of losing muscle.
Right.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Totally. All right. Let's go and get
go
it
build
on.
some muscle.
Let's go do the thing.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. If you have any questions, follow-ups on this, or if you have something that you think we left off this list, slide into the DMs and let us know.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Bye.